The General Jessup worked the Colorado from the Gulf of California to Fort Yuma. Other boats, including the very first, the Uncle Sam, and the largest, the Gila, cruised on the river. The Gila, at 149 feet long, still owns the distinction of being the longest stern wheeler to navigate the river. The steamboats ventured farther and farther north on the Colorado, and in early 1858, the first steamboat made it as far as Black Canyon, near the present-day site of Hoover Dam. Other steamboaters followed Johnson up the river. They would navigate the rapids in Black Canyon by hauling their boats. The boats would be hooked to cables which ran through ring bolts that had been placed on the canyon walls. Winches on the boats were then used to literally pull the boats through the rapids. Steamboats ran on the Colorado until the start of the 1900s, but with the arrival of the railroad, they became less attractive to business and were ultimately abandoned. While Johnson had proved it was possible to navigate the Colorado to the north, in the 1860s, gold was discovered at El Dorado Canyon and provided a reason for steamboats to go farther north. Gold fever took hold, and finds and settlements were made up and down the river. Gold was found in places like Searchlight and in Greg's Basin on what is now the upper end of Lake Mead. Steamer operations saw a brief surge of activity as they brought supplies to the camps along the river. Although most of the mines played out within a few years, some in the area of Catherine on what is now Lake Mojave continued producing up until the start of World War II. While steamboats were flying the lower Colorado, farther upstream, men, some brave, some foolhardy, explored the upper canyons. John Wesley Powell, a one-armed Civil War veteran, stands above the rest. Powell accomplished what no one had previously dared when he navigated the mighty Colorado River from the Rockies to the Grand Canyon. Powell and 9 others set out from Green River, Wyoming in 4 small wooden boats in May 1869. After enduring dangerous rapids, extreme hunger, and other hardships, not knowing when the canyon and its wild rapids would end, the Powell party split. 3 of his men, believing their only hope for survival was to climb out of the canyon and try to find the Mormon settlements they thought were nearby, left the main party and climbed out of the canyon. The 3 men were not seen again. Powell and the remainder of the group pressed on in the 2 boats that remained. They navigated Separation Rapids, where the group had split, and 2 days later arrived at the confluence of the Virgin River and the Colorado, where they were met by Mormon settlers. Powell wrote about his experiences. His adventures provide readers with a first-hand experience of what he endured. Powell is important in another way. He later became the 2nd director of the U.S. Geological Survey and was instrumental in developing awareness of the importance of water management in the West. He began an inventory of Western water resources, which the USGS still conducts today. Another group which had great impact on the Lake Mead area were the Mormons, who settled near the Great Salt Lake in the 1840s. They expanded to the west and south and saw the Colorado River as a possible route for expansion. George Johnson's steamboats proving the river could be an alternative to part of the difficult overland route, they set out to establish a port on the Colorado. Anson, Call, and a group set out from southern Utah to establish such a port, and in 1864 built the town of Colville above El Dorado Canyon. Colville only existed as a town for a few years, as the river north of El Dorado proved too difficult to navigate commercially, and the Transcontinental Railroad, completed in 1869, made transportation by river uneconomical. Throughout the second half of the 1800s and into the early part of the 20th century, humans tried to use the Colorado River, but as beneficial as its waters were, its awesome power could also destroy. Over the course of its 1,400 miles, the Colorado drains water from 1/12 of the continental United States. In the spring, it would often swell and overflow its banks, flooding hundreds of square miles in Arizona and California. This was beneficial, as the silt deposited by the overflows created rich farmland, and the overflows could be directed by canals into areas like California's Imperial Valley, providing irrigation. But it could also be incredibly destructive. In 1905, it overflowed and flooded the Imperial Valley for 2 years, leaving behind the 300 square mile Salton Sea as a reminder of its force. As agriculture and development grew along the Colorado, the cycle of flood and drought had to be controlled. After the floods of 1905 and 1906, the Bureau of Reclamation was given the task of controlling the mighty Colorado. They surveyed over 70 possible sites for a dam to control the river. By 1919, only 2 possibilities, Boulder Canyon and Black Canyon, remained. After 5 years of further study, it was determined that Black Canyon would be the site of the most ambitious engineering project in history, the damming and control of the Colorado River. By choosing Black Canyon instead of Boulder Canyon, the engineers not only chose a site that was more geologically stable, but also increased the size of the Lake Mead Reservoir by 1/3 without additional cost. That extra 1/3 became the Boulder Basin of Lake Mead, where we are cruising today. With the location of the dam site determined, 2 tasks faced the federal government. One, of course, was the engineering and construction of the dam itself. The other, just as important, was determined where the captured water would go. 6 different states and Mexico had to agree, and it took several years before the Colorado River Compact in 1922 settled the issue. The compact paved the way for the Boulder Canyon Project Act of 1928, which provided the funding for the dam in Black Canyon. The act allocated $175 million for construction and stipulated that the money be paid back plus 3% interest within 50 years. The idea was that the dam would generate electricity and sell it to generate revenue. By 1976, the dam had grossed close to $400 million, returning over $200 million to the government. In 1986, final payment was made, and believe it or not, a federal project had completely paid for itself. In the 20s, as plans for the dam in Black Canyon progressed, the project was widely known as Boulder Dam because of the Boulder Canyon Project Act. The name stuck, even though Congress officially named it Hoover Dam in 1930. The dam was named for Herbert Hoover because he was responsible for overseeing the complex water rights negotiations when he was Secretary of Commerce in the 1920s. Boulder Dam continued to be the most used name, however, and in 1947, President Truman asked Congress to decide just what the legal name was. It was, and still is, Hoover Dam, although even today, both Boulder and Hoover are used. As we approach the Black Canyon entrance itself, keep a sharp eye on the hills off the starboard side. If you're lucky, you might spot one of the native desert bighorn sheep. One of the largest herd of desert bighorn sheep in Nevada makes its home here at Lake Mead. About the size of a white-tailed deer with a white patch on its rump and the distinctive curly horn, the animals feed on the small amounts of green vegetation you can see. To spot one, look for the white patch, as the bighorns feed facing uphill. If you spot one, keep an eye on it, and you'll be amazed at how easily they seem to move up and down the steep slopes. Their hooves are padded, and they act almost like Velcro on the rocks and cliffs, allowing the easy movement. The bighorn, which journey as far as Boulder City for food, are more often spotted in the cooler times of the year, when they travel further down the cliffs. In a moment, we will turn the corner into Black Canyon itself, and we will be over the original course of the Colorado. At that point, the lake is 500 feet deep, and the cliffs tower 1,000 feet above us. Before building the dam, some of the most violent rapids on the Colorado were found in the 25 miles of Black Canyon. As we enter the canyon, we'll tell you more about Hoover Dam.